Okay. I want to remind you to silence all of your technical devices that you have, cell phones, laptops, whatever you've got, please silence it. Do we have any guests here today? Yes, we do. Welcome, especially to our guests. Thank you. Thank you. You will notice that we don't have a printed order of service, but everyone who comes in should get a little folder like this, which has in it information about who we are. And we also recycle these, so if you don't need it, you can return it at the end of the service to the basket at the back. Inside, there is a piece of paper like this, and on this you're invited to write any particular joys, concerns, anything that you would like to share with this congregation. And when the offering basket is passed, then please drop it in, and after that, we will read them and share them with the congregation. Okay. And when leaving the service, if you don't need this, put it in the basket at the back. All right, we have a few announcements this morning. People keep handing me announcements. This is the first announcement. It starts off, do you eat? Do you ever need a handyman? And is organizing the stuff that somehow just collects and collects? How about yard work? Need to run errands but don't want to drive? Maybe explore your hidden creative artistic talents? Oh, and taxes. Everyone loves taxes. Coming in June, our newest offering, a gift certificate mart, will be open for you to purchase online certificates for a service or something to make your cooking chores a breeze. All contributions, if you would like to make one and put it in the mart, are due by May the 20th, 2022, and that's pretty soon. So please contact Linda Cobb. Linda, hold up your hand. There's Linda. Please contact Linda Cobb, and I can give you her phone number, but I'm not going to read it because if I did, you wouldn't remember it. But I can give it to you if you're interested. It's also in the Simple Church directory. If you'd like to donate a gift to the gift certificate mart, now that's anything that you would like to donate. It can be services, it can be food. And if you'd like to do that, or if you need some suggestions, you think maybe you don't have anything to contribute, talk to Linda and she can come up with something for you. A reminder, after the service, let's see, we're developing, quote, a religion of one's own workshop, and it will be in the library after coffee today. And I'm sorry, I told Trista, please sure to write it down, otherwise I'll forget it. Forgot it anyway. Okay. And at some point, my order of service, which had written on it my opening words and all that stuff, is not here. I had it, and I don't have it. So, our Chalice Lighting today, the one I had chosen is by Dag Hammarskjöld, and it went something like this. Each day, we bring our chalice to give, to receive, and to light the world. Thank you. Okay, we'll now be singing together a hymn. We are a gentle, angry people, and it is number 170 in your hymnal. And we'll give the choir a minute to get up here.
Okay, you gotta wait on me again.
You need to sit closer. You get the front row from now on.
Our opening words, may we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of justice. Now, if you will, please stand if you're willing and able for us to recite our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to sing the church in love, and to help one another. Thank you. You may be seated. And now we will have a time for all ages, which we can all enjoy together, including the kids. How many of you were surprised at where he was going? I was, the first time I saw this. There's quite a message in there about not judging people by the way they look, by their faces, by their clothes, but also people that you think, well, he thought the little boy with the hair parted and everything was a prince, going to be carried away to his castle. And it turned out the little boy with the parted hair was just like him. He was coming to visit his mother. Now, we will sing the children out. Can we sing them out? Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. One of the first rules is don't sing into the mic. This church is solely supported by the generosity of its members and its friends. At this point, we will gratefully receive your offering. The first thing I'm going to read for you is a joy. It was contributed by Denise, and she says, Nova will be 7 years old on Tuesday, May the 17th. Happy birthday to Nova. And the next one is from Jay Butcher, and he says, Lynn Butcher's birthday is tomorrow. I love joys. Okay. Penny Featherstone says, please light a candle of healing and hope for the victims and families of the Buffalo community after the hateful shooting. May peace prevail. And Farron Collins says, at age 76, I'm finally, joyfully retiring. Hooray! And Bill says, please mention the vote411.org, which the League of Women Voters has. It is a website, and it gives you information about the people who are running for office. It's a very valuable website, vote411.org. And Chris Brockaway says, James has something going on and needs good energy sent his way. Energy. And I'll add my own 2 cents worth of compassion and hopes for the people of Ukraine. And also, one last candle for those joys and concerns that are deeply held but unexpressed at this time. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. I'll tell you, these services are really a team effort. They are not a one-man show. Okay, I think most of you are familiar with the person sitting up here on the stage. This is Kaylee Williams, who was the person who helped organize us all for the Just Pensacola rally. When I called her up and asked her for an appropriate reading for a kickoff for her part of the service, she said her favorite reading came from the letter from a Birmingham jail by Martin Luther King Jr. So I have selected a couple of passages from that very long and heartfelt letter, and I'm going to read those to you before I let Kaeli take over this podium. Martin Luther King Jr. was writing this in response to some of his moderate but liberal clergy friends who were telling him that he was trying to go too fast, that he needed to be more patient, he needed to negotiate, and besides that, what in the heck is he doing in Birmingham when his center of operation was in Atlanta? And he starts off. My dear fellow clergymen, I am in Birmingham because injustice is here. I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and all states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. You deplore the demonstrations taking place in Birmingham, but your statement, I'm sorry to say, fails to express a similar concern for the conditions that brought about the demonstrations. You may well ask, why do you do these direct actions? Why do you have sit-ins and marches and so forth? Isn't negotiation a better path? You're quite right. You're quite right in calling for negotiation. Indeed, this is the very purpose of direct action. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks to so dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored. My citing the creation of tension as part of the work of the nonviolent work of the nonviolent register may sound rather shocking, but I must confess that I'm not afraid of the word tension. I have earnestly opposed violent tension, but there's a type of constructive, nonviolent tension which is necessary for growth. Just as Socrates felt that it was necessary to create a tension in the mind so that individuals could rise from the bondage of myths and half-truths to the unfettered realm of creative analysis and objective appraisal, so must we see the need for nonviolent gadflies to create the kind of tension in society that will help men rise from the dark depths of prejudice and racism to the majestic heights of understanding and brotherhood. The purpose of our direct action is to create a situation so crisis-packed that it will inevitably open the door to negotiation. I therefore concur with you in your call for negotiation. We all know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given up by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. And I give you Kaylee Williams, who will talk about our action.
Good morning, everybody. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me today. So I thought it was only fitting to begin today's talk with this sermon, or with this letter from a Birmingham jail, because in my line of work, we often reflect on MLK's writings because he's one of the most famous community organizers in American history. In fact, he wrote this letter from jail, and while he was participating in a nonviolent demonstration against segregation. And as Paula said, this was in response to a public statement of concern issued by 8 white religious leaders in the South. These leaders considered themselves allies, and up until that point, I think MLK considered them to be allies as well. And they morally believed that segregation was wrong, and they believed in the goal of the demonstrations. However, they didn't believe in the method that Dr. King was using, and that others were using to push for change. It's much more comfortable to stand by a movement with words of support rather than participating in it with action. And this is the difference between taking action to achieve the goal of the world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and merely talking about it on a Sunday morning. So the narrative of a white moderate is one that I know all too well myself as a lived and viewed experience. For a lot of my life, I was quick to support a social justice movement with a hashtag or positive words of encouragement, but rarely did I show up and participate in the demonstration that would result in actual change if it wasn't a movement that affected me or someone really close to me personally. Because as we all know, sometimes it's inconvenient to do those things. It's hard to do those things. I'd say inconvenient is probably the word that comes to me the most, not wanting to leave the house or not wanting to go across town. And so I fell and still do sometimes fall into that trap. So I spent years uninvolved and unengaged because it didn't affect me, different problems. But that changed when I was personally affected by something that affects thousands of people each year, and that was touched on in the beautiful candle lighting this morning. So on February 14th in 2018, my youngest sister was one of the students who attended Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, where a shooter murdered 17 students and staff members. My sister was safe at home that day, but still suffers from the psychological damage of what gun violence does. Not only that, but she's still not the same. She's in college now. She's been taking online classes, and just recently we were encouraging her to go on campus and make friends and be social, and she said, going on campus just gives me way too much anxiety. I don't want to do that. I don't think I can go back on campus. And it's affecting her learning. And every time we go to the movies or anywhere else, you see her eyes darting from door to door, making sure she knows where all the exits are. And we know that gun violence affects large numbers of people in different communities in different kinds of ways. This kind of violence appears in the way of domestic violence, gang violence, and most recently, the gun violence that has been done at the hands of the police. The murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and so many others are unacceptable, and it shows that the entire criminal justice system must be overhauled. That said, the seriousness of the problem did not dawn on me until I really felt personally like I had been affected by gun violence in some way. And during the 1960s, the violent law enforcement response to the civil rights protest marches made Birmingham, Alabama, the epicenter of the civil rights struggle. More than 30 years later, the killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, Rashad Brooks, and Ahmaud Arbery, and countless others brought forth demonstrations of deep anguish, fear, sadness, rage in our communities across the nations. These murders, however, were just the latest manifestations in our country's long-standing sin of racism, among many other injustices. So in 2022, this new post-ish pandemic reality, I don't know what we're calling it right now, but we face another potential turning point in our country's struggle towards racial equality and justice. So the question is, will white clergy and white faith institutions take the historic opportunity to respond more forcefully and righteously than they did in 1963? And a good starting point is, we've all heard, love your neighbors as yourself. That's what we often quote when I go to Bible-based churches, but when I was looking, I think that the first principle of the 7 principles of the UU, will someone say it for me?
We affirm the worth and dignity of all.
We affirm the worth and dignity of all people. I think that's quite similar. How often we limit our definition of people or neighbors to those who look and think like us or vote like us. And as Dr. King pointed out, the most segregated hour in America is the 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. And churches remain among the most segregated aspects of American life. But for white faith communities to truly be partners of confronting racism and all other injustices for that matter, our notion of whom we embrace as our neighbors must expand. The American church, particularly the white church, has an opportunity to guide the congregations in this project through a strategy that intentionally centers around getting together and being a public force together. So, Dr. King was especially concerned about those who seek to maintain the status quo. We've heard that quote, right? Instead of living out the vision that we all share to be together, people want to go back to how the world was before COVID. But I think a lot of us know that status quo isn't something that we want to go back into. We don't want to go back to this new normal. We've heard about talk like that a lot. But through community organizing, like Just Pensacola, we're confronting the powers that be and the structures of evil with justice, compassion, and by holding the people in power in our community accountable. We strive to build a just community where everyone is respected and loved and safe, but this requires bold social action. And it isn't possible without having everyone at the table. Community organizing is a multi-faith setting, brings together people from every walk of life, and it addresses the concerns that they see in their own communities. And as Dr. King mentions in his letter, those concerns have existed for years but have gone unexposed. So, what are some of the injustices you are all seeing that are happening in our community of Pensacola or in our county of Escambia? Just feel free to shout them out in a few words. What are some injustices that you're seeing in the community?
Lack of affordable housing.
Lack of affordable housing. Anything else?
Inequity of wages.
Wages.
Traffic violations and tickets and.
The lack of opportunity of people coming out of incarceration.
Lack of opportunities. These are all very real issues and they're all happening now. So for those who don't know, we just had our Nehemiah Action, which was on May 2nd. And I know that when I'm speaking about this, that the Unitarian Universalist Church of Pensacola knows what I'm talking about because you all exceeded your goal in turnout for the Nehemiah Action with over 50 people in attendance. So I want to give a round of applause for that. And so what the Nehemiah Action is, if you weren't there, it's the culmination of a year's worth of work where we come together and we hold our public officials accountable for the issues that we selected as a group. So this year it was around affordable housing and it was around the criminal justice, specifically increasing the amount or decreasing the amount of arrests using what we call civil citations for both juveniles and adults. So at the Nehemiah Action, we got commitments from city council members to open an affordable housing trust fund that's going to create hundreds, and if the county gets on board, thousands of rental units that are affordable for those making between 30 and 80% average median income. So the people that fall in that bracket are people like our teachers and our firefighters and stuff like that, but it's also our store clerks and our truck drivers, among other people. So that's an amazing victory. And then the other victory you got was commitments and a recommitment from the state attorney and the police chief of Pensacola, Eric Randall, who agreed to work on getting our civil citation usage up to 80% for children. Again, we went from 17% to 56% in the year previously. Yep. That was 168 less children arrested because of the work that you all did. And then we want to double that rate practically in the next year. And then also they agreed to meet to talk about adult civil citations. There's so many people being arrested for fines and fees unnecessarily, basically us criminalizing poverty, and it has to stop. And we got the first commitments to stop. That being said, our work is not done. Now is, as much as I want to go home and take a nap for the next 3 months, we are going to enter our follow-up season, which is the next, between now and the end of the summer. We are going to be tying up all the loose ends. We're going to be meeting with all of our stakeholders again, and we're going to be making sure that the people that said they're going to do are going to actually follow through. We're also in our fundraising season, and then we're also not too far from now, 4 months or so, we're going to gear up to do house meetings again. And on top of following up with these 2 very important issues, we're going to vote in a 3rd issue to work on. So if there's something you're really passionate about, this is an opportunity for you to start thinking about it and sharing it and advocating so that Jessica in Pensacola can use its power of nearly 700 people, and hopefully next year even more, to come together and really address these problems. So, my challenge for you today is, if you believe that no matter the color of your skin, the address of or zip code of your neighbor, their sexual orientation, or the money in their bank account, that all people have dignity and worth, and you are actively working to confront the structures that tell those same people they have no dignity or worth, that you come up and you participate in this wonderful organization that I'm very biased towards, but just in general is really amazing. And can you stand up if you're really actively involved in Just Pensacola? I know there's Paula is, Penny. Yeah. So talk to these folks. They know what's going on. You can always talk to me, but they also are great sources of information. And I'll be staying after the service for a little while to be talking, to be able to answer any questions you might have. But I really appreciate you being here. And more than that, I really appreciate the amount of effort that went into getting over 50 people to show up. That's not easy. You all have a smaller AWA, average worship attendance, than a lot of congregations, yet showed up full force, and that's something really to be proud of. And it shows that you're not only speaking the values, the 7 UU values, but you're living them. So congratulations on that as well. Thank you.
Many thanks for Kaylee taking a deep breath and being willing, right after the enormous effort of pulling together our Nehemiah action, to come to see us this morning. And we thank Kaylee for all her efforts. Thank you. I chose for our closing words the words to a hymn that is in our little green hymnal. It's called "We Are Building a New Way." That is what we are doing.
Do you want to do the hymn first?
No, we're not going to sing. Oh, that hymn? Oh, yeah. So sorry. Yes, please, let's have a hymn. And the hymn is where is my hymn? The hymn is number 348, and it's "Guide My Feet." has a quick announcement here.
I meant to do this earlier. Also, we are hiring an associate organizer in August. So if you or you know someone who this job sounds perfect for or has the passion for this job, please apply or send them the application. It'll be available on our website. And so yeah, that's going to help us grow a lot too. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this joint effort is coming to a close here. And my closing words, which I have recently revised. And actually, this morning I picked up the book by Jamie Raskin about the trauma that he went through when his son committed suicide, and almost immediately thereafter there was the January 6th riot and attempt at a coup, and how this all affected him. In the very first page, the facing page of his book, he quotes Sophocles. "One word frees us all. It frees us from the weight and the pain of life. That word is love. Go in peace."